Hello, welcome to this news episode of Talking Soccer World, talking about the Women's World Cup 2019. Yesterday, we talked about a very serious issue about the player discrimination on and off the field. Well, this is a really a big issue that we have to talk again later. And even though a number of U.S. Soccer players, I mean the female players, already filed a lawsuit against the discrimination that has yet to be decided on court. So I think this matters. It is a really long-lasting matter, and cre- that create a lot of controversy, and also this is a topic that should be very polemics. Um, so we better leave this matter in the future. Let's talk about the match itself. Well, the, we are already um more than halfway through the last 16, and two matches has to be played tonight, and then we will decide the last eight, and we will talk about the charts and also the brief analysis again very soon. Not in this episode, but in the coming episode. Let's talk about the matches itself. We are not going to talk it one by one to be sure, but I want to talk about the extra time and the penalty shootout in this tournament so far. We have one extra time between Brazil and France, the host nation, and then wow, this one is very exciting and thrilling. The match has to be decided by the penalty shootout. This is Australian and the Norwegian. Oh, this match is well. I would highly recommend all of you to review the match, the whole match. Um, the for the when we talk about extra time and penalty shootout, a soccer match doesn't necessarily is rush to watch. If this is going to be um going to extra time and even the penalty shootout. When you look back to the men's World Cup last year, there are at least 4 to 5 extra time matches, and some of them even go into the direct penalty shootout. But as far as I remember, the matches between Spain and Russia, and also at least the match between Croatia and Denmark is really a crap one. Really a crap one. I mean, the whole match is really not what worth to watch the whole match. And even if you see the review, the highlight, there are not a lot of chances, a lot of things to be remembered, to be remembered sorry, to be remembered of. But for this edition of Women's World Cup, this is a very complete story. If you see the match from the first minute to the 120 minutes to the end, you can see two teams are competing with each other. What I mean competing is they are fighting to the end, and also with the diligent and relentless displays from both sides. For example, the Australia led by the striker Sam Kerr and the left flank player Ford, they they are running and creating a lot of chances until the end, and you see the other side, the Norwegian, led by the skillful player like Hansen and her teammates. They are creating a lot of effective chances, at both ends. That concludes a very watchable match. It is to be sure, and undeniably, I think it is one of the most exciting match so far in the World Cup. Unfortunately, should be designed that has to be designed on the penalty shootout, and I think Australia is little bit unlucky this time. Uh, Not to mention a possible penalty to be given in the first half, but when you see the defender Kennedy is sent off at the end of the extra the first half of the extra time, they hold on to the end and fight. And most importantly, when you look into both matches, I mean the both matches that had to be designed by the extra time and the penalty shootout. The match between France and Brazil is you could see a very energetic display from both sides. For France, if you see the players like Asai and Diani, and also the Lyon left flank player La Soma, they are creating a lot of chances using their place and their dribbling skill to pass the opponents to create a lot of threatening chances to the resilient Brazil defensive line. And on the other end, if you see the Brazilians, they are creating chances at the very last minute. I remember the Bina, the substitute, are playing a very nice football with also another substitute, Richards. If 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 the Bina could score the last gap's winner, the story would be very different. Would be very different. So I think in those matches, I think that already conclude a very exciting and thrilling Women's World Cup this year, and yet a lot of several important matches has yet to be done, has yet to be played, including the last eight, quarterfinal, semi-finals, and also the finals. I think more exciting matches has yet to become. So and the last thing I would like to say is, well, one would argue, well, women's World Cup is becoming more tactical. Well, I agree to some certain extent. It is becoming more tactical. A lot of teams are talking about the balance between the attacking force and defensive force. And if you look into the match, somehow you can recall how the men are playing at the moment on the field. But one of the main difference between the men's soccer and women's soccer nowadays is the women's soccer is still working and still trying their best to create chances, even with the teams like Cameroon and Nigeria who are in nature are not a very attacking minded team. They are also creating chances when they are falling behind. The chances are very threatening and very direct. I would say the really defensive, the most defensive team in the World Cup so far is China. It's China, yeah. So other teams are mainly attacking minded. That's to sum up the difference between the men's soccer and the women's soccer nowadays. So I hope the attacking mindset in the women's soccer are still lingering, and would still go on in the coming future, so that it could preserve a certain characteristic. Otherwise, men's soccer and women's soccer would be indifferent. that would be a very fatal loss to the audience, soccer fans and audience in the world. Well, let's enjoy the coming matches and between Italy and China, and also Netherlands and Japan tonight. Yeah, at least enjoy the last two matches in the last 16 before we are going into the last 8, which is very watchable indeed.